Iboan everyone. My name is Prabodha Dewanarayana. Welcome to the Prabodha Dewanarayana podcast show. Today we have a special guest from all the way from United States, Professor Laura. Professor Laura, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Right. Professor Laura, my main target is the university students and the people who are really interested in AI. That's my main target. So
Mhm.
before going to the chat, can you describe about yourself and your background and how you are related to AI? Can you do that?
Sure. Sure. I teach English and technical writing at the University of Central Oklahoma, and I got into AI back in December when I was pretty sure that I had a student turn in a paper that was completely written by AI, but I didn't know how to handle that, as I think
Yeah.
most of us didn't know what to do back in December.
Yeah.
And from that point, I ended up starting a Facebook group just because I needed other people to talk to about AI.
Hmm.
And I figured maybe I'd have 20 to 50 people in the group, and we've got over 5,400 people in the group now.
Hmm.
And I ended up running an IRB study last spring where
Okay.
I brought AI literacy into the classroom. I allowed my students to use it with full transparency.
Yeah.
We talked about it in the classroom, shared our ideas together,
Hmm.
and I didn't have any obvious cheating last spring. I didn't have
Hmm.
any obvious cheating over the summer, and I have not had any obvious cheating this semester so far.
Hmm.
So, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm going around and talking to university professors and helping them learn how to start using AI
Hmm.
and trying to help people not be afraid of it, not see it as the enemy, but see ways that we can change our classes to incorporate AI in some way, or where it makes sense to tell our students not to use it, and then to help our students understand why we're not using it in those places.
Mhm. Okay. That part, most of the people think AI as an enemy. Like for an example, here in the eastern side also, when we talk about AI, people think, no, we shouldn't do that. It's like kind of a cheating thing. But it seems like you guys are just embracing this technology. So don't you think some people think that it's just harm the academia or it just destroy the knowledge? So what's your opinion about it? Should we consider as an enemy or like a frenemy or like a friend or like what is it?
I think is a casual acquaintance that you know well enough to hang out with, but not that you trust with all of your secrets. So,
Yeah.
I love the idea of rethinking what do we want out of our classes and what do we want our students to be able
Mhm.
to do when they leave us. So, for example, I have my phone with me. So if my child asks me a question and I don't know the answer, I can say, let's ask Siri or let's Google that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I feel like in a way that's kind of where education is going. So we still need to understand why things work. We need to understand foundational knowledge, but we have all of these tools at our disposal to help us understand the deeper things or to help, kind of hold that for us. So
Mhm.
we need to know how to get the answers that we're looking for. And we need to know that the answers that we've gotten are correct. So I
Mhm.
think making sure that students understand why they need that foundational knowledge, that's important. And then helping students figure out where it might make sense to use AI and helping
Mhm.
faculty, again, not be
Mhm.
afraid of allowing AI in certain places in their classrooms.
Wow. And now here in Sri Lanka, now I don't think a lot of people know about even AI. Maybe some universities, maybe in the urban areas, but other people I don't think they have an idea. So for example, in our university, we have made a club. It's called AIFA, like Artificial Intelligence for Arts. I'm a lecturer, so we try to build something with language plus art, AI. So what I want to know is how can we start these things? How can if we want to gather people around this concept? How can we do that? Obviously, like we have some cultural differences and the
Mhm.
countries differences and the people's attitudes are different, but how can we do that?
One of the things that I've been doing is I've been going around to different universities that invite me,
Mhm.
and I have 2 different offerings. One of them is an introductory 1-hour discussion about AI, just to
Mhm.
help professors think about how they might use it, talk about what it is and what it isn't. And then I
Mhm.
also have a 2-hour workshop that I offer that helps
Mhm.
professors think
Mhm.
about an assignment sheet that they want to change, how they might do AI literacy in their classroom. And
Yes.
I know other people who are doing a lot of those same things, and I
Mhm.
think that's how we reach people is we show
Mhm.
them what the technology can do, but also what it can't do, because I
Mhm.
think some people are worried that it's going to completely replace them as instructors, and we know that
Yeah.
that's not really where things are right now.
Yeah.
Um, one of my children does coding classes, computer coding,
Wow.
and yeah, and so he's gotten to a point where he doesn't always understand everything and the teacher can't always explain it. So he
Mhm.
wanted to get onto my chat GPT so that he could start using that as a tutor to help him understand the coding.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really great example of a place where I can't help him with what he's doing,
Yeah.
but he can go out to the AI and he can ask it questions. And he can
Mhm.
say, I need help understanding this. And then he can try that code out. And if it
Mhm.
doesn't work, then he can go back and say, okay, it didn't work. How might
Mhm.
I fix it? If it does work, then he's learned
Yeah.
something and he moves on to the next step. So I think, again, just, talking to people about what it can do
Mhm.
and showing them use cases that are maybe less ethically concerning, like, the whole
Mhm.
cheating thing,
Yeah.
but showing them where it can be useful.
Wow. And like I want to talk about like FOMO. I mean, fear of missing out. Like I think like
Yeah,
a lot of people just like try to like cling onto this concept. Like, okay, I want to talk about AI because like the cool thing, the cool kid in the town. So like I just want to like I don't want to miss on it.
right.
So do you think that people are concerned about AI because of FOMO, or like, or is it like really uh affecting their lives? So like what's your idea about?
Yeah, I think probably some of it is the fear of missing out. If you're following people on LinkedIn and you're watching all the really cool things that they're doing and you're
Yeah,
thinking, "Oh, I wish I could do those things."
yeah.
But I think there's also the concern that our students are going to be using it in ways that we don't want them to.
Hmm,
And so people feel like they have to keep up in order to keep up with their students.
hmm,
And so I think it kind of creates some anxiety
hmm,
because instructors don't want to feel like they've been taken advantage of, but
hmm.
at the same time, they also want to make sure that they understand the systems well enough to know that they're not being taken advantage of. So I think there's like a
Yeah,
lot of layers to it.
yeah. Wow. Okay. And other thing is like, I mean, you are a language teacher, and the prompt engineering is on the way. Like, I think now the prompt engineering is the coolest thing. Like now, because the thing is like, I missed the opportunity of coding. Like, I miss the opportunity of learning coding, and I'm not good at it. But when it comes to prompt engineering, I'm really excited because there's a language part that I can really use it uh,
Right.
for my advantage. So what's your take on like prompt engineering?
I recently took a course through Coursera that was offered
Mm,
by Vanderbilt on prompt engineering, and that really
mm,
helped me to understand it
mm,
because before I took that, I would watch what some of my friends on LinkedIn were doing, and it felt very heavy, very coding, very just kind of outside of my wheelhouse.
mm,
But after taking that prompting course and learning that it's things like you tell it who you are. So you say,
mm,
I am this person and I want
mhm,
to accomplish this task. This is
mhm.
my audience. And
Yeah.
then you say things like, what other questions do you have for me before you start answering my question? And so then
Mhm.
it gets all of those little bugs worked out and then it can give you a response. And I
Yeah.
think that's really amazing that we have this capability. I do think that with prompting, there is
Mm,
also the concern of garbage in, garbage out. So if people
yeah.
don't prompt well, they're
Mhm.
not going to get good responses.
Hmm.
And so I think there's a little bit of finesse that has to happen where people need to learn the right phrasing to use. But I
Hmm.
think once people understand that, it's not super difficult to do it. And I think it's
Yeah.
attainable for anybody, which is also really neat.
Okay. And other thing is now, for an example, in Eastern ideas like getting a PhD, and like that's like the most highest thing. But when
Mhm.
I look at you, like even though you got your bachelor's, then master's and PhD, now still you are like learning, like
Yes.
attending courses, all those things. Like my question is like, why? Like, I'm not getting it as a
No,
negative
right,
way,
right.
but yeah, because like the thing is like, because academically you have fulfilled everything. Like I mean, I would die for a PhD. Like, it's like, it's very really hard thing. So, what makes you exciting to learn new things, to learn to try new things actually?
Right. Well, I guess there are a couple of different ways to think about it. So, number one, at our university, transformative learning is very big. So, trying to give students opportunities to learn things that might change how they choose to live their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really great to give students those opportunities, but I also think
Mm-hmm.
we need those as well. So,
Yeah.
just because I have achieved a PhD doesn't mean that I'm done learning. And I want to have that lifelong learning spark that I pass on to
Mm-hmm.
my children and that I pass on to
Mm-hmm.
my students so that they realize that there's always room for us to learn more. And there's always room for us to change our minds if we realize that we learned something that was incorrect or that information has changed. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's maybe also one of the reasons that I'm relatively comfortable with AI is
Mm-hmm.
that it's just another learning opportunity for us to see how to maybe better approach the classroom,
Yeah.
to add more accessibility for people who might not have been able to do well in
Mhm,
school before. And now they
mhm,
have more opportunities to learn and to have access to
mhm,
information. So I'm just
mhm.
excited to have the opportunity to keep learning and find out more.
Wow, that's really amazing. And other thing is like, do you think that in future, I don't know, this might sound silly, but do you think that in future, like you can make like digital twin, like digital Laura, and like you can like transfer your knowledge to her, and like she will go to the lecture hall and she will teach that you will be chilling at the crib, and like, do you think that will happen in the future?
It might at some point. I don't think we're there yet.
Mm-hmm.
The AI assistants and chatbots that people have been creating over the last week and a half seem really interesting since
Mm,
ChatGPT or OpenAI updated all of their things in
yeah.
GPT-4. But I also see people pointing out a lot of the downfalls or the places where these chatbots seem really great, but then they don't perform the way people want them to. So I
Mhm.
think that we're probably a little ways away from having that happen, and I'm okay with that. I like being in the classroom and working with students.
Right, nice. And other thing is like now, do you think that the new lingo, like new words will come to our usage? For example, like the word Google, like we didn't use it back in the day. Now it has become kind of like a verb, isn't it? So
Right.
likewise, do you think that in the future, like someone will say, okay, Laura, like just chat GPT it or something like, do you think that those
Yeah.
kind of language bits will come to the usage?
I assume so. I mean, language is constantly changing. That's one
Hmm.
of the things, honestly, that I love about teaching is that my
Hmm.
students help me understand the new words and they help me
Yes,
understand how to use them correctly. My children,
yes.
the same thing. And,
Yeah. And sometimes
we
they
always,
use the words like slay or like, like some slangs, like we have no idea, like, like, I mean,
yeah,
yeah. It's just like amazing, isn't it?
yeah. And so with the way that language is constantly evolving to encapsulate new ideas, I'm sure we'll have
Mhm.
new nouns that have turned into verbs within a few years. And,
Yeah.
we'll just be like, yeah, just go chatbot that or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a nice phrase that people will definitely use it, isn't it? Yeah. Wow. And the other thing is like, do you think that we should have like a kill switch
Mm,
for AI, like maybe like I don't know, like something like right or wrong? Like, do you think that we should have the ultimate control?
That is a really deeply interesting question that I do not have an answer to. I think,
Yeah.
as I'm watching here in the US, Silicon Valley and the tech
Mm,
folks
mm,
saying, we want guidance, we want rules because we're afraid of people misusing this content. And I can see so many ways that it could go wrong, but I can also see so many ways that it could go right.
yeah.
And that I think it really depends on who is in charge of any
Mm,
particular like OpenAI or Llama or whatever, who's in charge of
mm,
those things and
mm,
how they're training them and then how they are monitoring their usage. And I realize in some cases it's kind of hard to monitor them because once you put
yeah.
something into a computer system and the algorithm starts doing what it does, it can be really hard to predict what that output is going to look like in some
Mm,
cases.
mm, yeah.
So I don't know. I think
Mm,
it would be good if we had some rules and some
mm,
controls,
mm,
but I also think it's going to vary by country. So the EU has put some guidelines
yeah.
into place that I
And
think,
Biden has taken some like steps, right? I
yes.
have seen in the news. Like, what do you think about that one?
I'm still waiting to see how it works and if it works.
Okay,
Um,
okay, okay.
yeah, things in the United
Uh-huh.
States are very different in that
Mm-hmm.
we kind of believe in freedom of speech as the very first thing. And
Yeah.
so it becomes hard to put content rules into place because people are saying, well,
Right.
this violates my freedom of speech, my First Amendment rights. Um, so that's a big struggle, I think, as a country that we have. And, I've got a
Wow.
friend here. He's
Ah,
helping me.
yes. Like, what's her name? What's her name?
This one is
Yeah.
Teddy.
Teddy. Okay.
Teddy.
Wow. How
Yeah.
many cats do you have, by the way?
We have four.
Wow. Really? So you're like a
Yes,
cat
yes.
lover, isn't it?
Yes, we love cats, and we try to adopt ones that are
Wow.
having a hard time being adopted or who have health issues that just need someone to take care of them.
Wow. That's really nice. But do you think like in the future you can like plug something to Ted's head and like tick, 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 like ChatGPT or like then like you like do you I know it's like sounds very like funny and all, but do you think those things are like I don't know, like it seems very possible, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if you've seen some of the studies already where they're using AI programs to determine what animals are saying from their different
Yeah, I
sounds
thought
that
that
they
it's kind
make.
of like a fake thing. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've
and
seen it.
they've been able to listen to babies crying and determine what's wrong
Yeah,
based on the pitches. And so
yeah,
I don't know if we're necessarily going to see something that plugs in, but we might just
yeah,
gain a better understanding of
yeah.
what babies and animals are trying to communicate because the AI has more range of ability to process that information than we do.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, it's just funny to be like, maybe like Ted will say, Laura, don't go. Like, then you can trust now. Okay,
Yeah.
like, yeah, wow, that's just amazing. And other thing is um, like what do you think about this AI technology? Like, what will happen? Like, because the thing is, like, the things come too fast. Like, I saw that AI pin is there. Sometimes, like, it just projects something to your
Yeah.
hand, and like, the
Yeah.
phone is not there. Like, because it just too fast. So do you think we are just like making it too fast, or should we like slow it down? Like, because it's just like sometimes too much to catch up, isn't it?
Right. Back in January, I was able to keep up and read, pretty much everything that was coming out every day or two.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
now I'm just skimming headlines and reading abstracts and trying to
Yeah.
figure out which things are the most important for me to read.
Hmm.
And I think it is moving very fast.
Hmm.
I don't necessarily think that's a problem, but I think it does make it harder for people to keep up with the information and
Hmm.
for people to feel like they have a grasp on what's happening.
Hmm.
And I think one of the things that people can do if they feel like, it's already moved past them is that
Hmm.
they can come back and say, okay, I'm just going to take a step and I'm just going to learn how to use ChatGPT this week. I'm not going to
Yes.
try to figure out anything else. I'm just going to use ChatGPT.
Hmm.
And I think focusing on that instead of going, oh my goodness, look at
Mhm,
all of these amazing things that
mhm,
I could do that I don't understand. I think
mhm,
if we understand the basics, then we can decide which pieces of the AI technology we want to follow for our
mhm,
own needs and for our students' needs.
mhm. Wow. And another thing is like, do you think that the government should like intervene for this, or like do you think they should not?
I think I'm watching very closely what the EU is doing
Mm,
because I think they tend to put guidelines in place that then other countries have to follow because if companies want to
yes,
operate in the EU, then it just
yes.
makes sense to have one set of guidelines. Um, so I think I want to see what they're doing, and
Mm-hmm,
it seems like they've been making some decent moves so far. I don't feel like
mm-hmm,
anything that they've done is really overwhelming.
mm-hmm.
Um, but again, I think, in the US, it's really hard because if you want to pass any laws, then they have to go through Congress, and that can be very difficult, especially right now.
That's true. And like another like funny question, like when I actually like I put a status in WhatsApp okay, I'm meeting Professor Laura, like today we have a broadcast, and then someone was like, oh, is she from USA? Okay, ask her like whether she knows Elon Musk or something like that. I don't know. Like, do you really know Elon Musk?
No, no, no. He
Yeah,
lives in California, I think, so he is
yeah.
a few days drive away from where I am. I'm in the middle of
Oh,
the country.
nice. And tell us something about Oklahoma because I've heard about it.
Okay.
Like, what is it like? Like, it's just Laura, like it's like for us, it's kind of like a different world, like
Oh
different
yeah.
set of cultures. Like, I don't know, like it's just. I mean, I've been there, so I have the experience. The people are
Mhm.
different, the cultures, their norms are like totally different. So tell us something about Oklahoma. Is it a nice place?
Sure. Sure. We have a lot of Native American tribes here, which is really cool.
Wow.
So my kids have the opportunity to learn about other cultures within our state, which I
Wow.
love. Um,
Very
the
nice.
weather can't decide what season it is. We might have all four seasons in one
Uh-huh.
afternoon.
Uh-huh.
You kind of get used to the tornadoes because they come when they come, and everybody has their favorite news broadcaster who does the weather. And so we
Wow.
follow them kind of like sports teams.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And there's a lot of barbecue meat
Hmm.
here. So a lot of
Hmm.
people like pork or beef barbecue, and we've
Hmm.
got a lot of Tex-Mex food, which is kind of
Hmm.
Texas Mexican, so it's an Americanized
Hmm.
Mexican food.
Hmm.
Um,
Like burritos
I'm
and all those things.
Yeah, yeah, and
Okay.
I'm close to Oklahoma City, so we have a
Hmm.
very um, diverse population of people, and we
Hmm.
have a very diverse population of food choices, which is great because we love to go and try all of the different foods. We don't eat a whole
I
lot
know
of
you love
American.
food. Like in your website, I was like the first thing, like I love food. Like I like to try it. Like, yeah.
Yes, and I
I mean,
teach
I
about
mean,
food sometimes too.
really?
Yeah,
What
I,
do you
I
teach
teach
about
about
food?
it from an accessibility and poverty standpoint.
Okay.
So who has access to what foods and what does eating local look like and what does supporting local farmers look like, that sort of thing.
Wow, that's really nice, amazing. It's like you are like into like a lot of stuff, right? Like you know about food,
Yeah.
like AI, the English, and like wow, that's really nice. And another thing I want to ask, like, are you keeping up with the trends which happens? I mean, obviously you talked about EU, but more the Sri Lankan side or maybe Indian side, like, are you keeping eye on those kind of areas? Like, okay, what's going on in India or Sri Lanka or maybe like Philippines or China? Like, are you interested in those things?
I would love to hear more about them. I don't have a whole lot of people on LinkedIn who are posting about them. Most
Mm-hmm,
of the people that I follow are posting about Australia or the EU or
mm-hmm,
America, so
mm-hmm,
or Canada. Um,
mm-hmm,
so it's like I keep trying to see what the rest of the world is doing
mm-hmm,
because I think it's fascinating, and
mm-hmm,
obviously this is something that impacts everybody or at least it will at some point, even if they don't have access to electricity or computers. If you've
Mm-hmm.
got AI making decisions about governmental policy or about farmers' budgets or about where
Mm-hmm.
we're going to allow a water project to happen,
Mm-hmm.
then even people who are in less developed areas may be impacted by the AI, even if they're not using it. So I think it's really important for everybody to think about it and to know about it, and for us to know about the things that are happening around the world so that we can understand.
Okay, wow, really nice. And other thing is like I watched Joe Rogan's podcast like with Elon Musk. I love those things. Like even though I'm in Sri Lanka, I love American content. I know Kardashians and I know like Biden and like what's going on there and like maybe some TikTok trends and like I really love it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And uh like the Elon said that is something like it was interesting for me. Like he told that okay, when AI take over everything, so the people will be more spiritual, like because like AI will take care of it and everything will be okay, and people will be more spiritual or something like that. What do you think about that one? Do you think that's kind of like a good way to think about it, or like do you have a
I
different idea?
I don't see that trend happening.
Mhm,
Um, I think right now people
mhm.
are just worried about keeping their jobs because, AI
Yes.
can come in, and
Mhm,
if one person with
mhm,
AI can now do what five people were doing,
mhm,
then that means four people have to find a different job. And
mhm,
I don't I don't see people I don't see humans in general
mhm, mhm.
making choices that are going to make life easier for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe in other countries it's different,
Mhm,
but in the US, we are very
mhm,
involved in trying to make the best for ourselves, and we are not as community minded.
mhm.
And so I just don't see people using the AI for good things so that they can have more time to be spiritual. That just
Wow.
I
That's
don't
just
see that
not
happening.
happening there in US, isn't it?
No.
Wow. And other thing is like now you are a university professor, like you teach there. What do you think about the students these days? Like compared to your days, like are they more interested in learning or they are just like after money or like what's their general mindset? Like the US
I
students.
Yeah. I love working with our students because I see them as having so much more open-mindedness. I
Mm-hmm,
think because they've been exposed to ideas from all over the world through their phones. They watch TikTok videos, they watch YouTube, they watch whatever, and they
mm-hmm,
have the opportunity to learn about other ideas. Now, that does mean sometimes they get into their bubbles,
mm-hmm.
and I get that. But
Yeah.
I appreciate that our students, at least, are
Mm-hmm,
still here for the learning. They
mm-hmm,
want to be here. We are not one of the state schools, we're a regional school. So
mm-hmm,
students who come to our school are usually looking to build a better life after they graduate. They want to be able to get
mm-hmm,
those good jobs,
mm-hmm,
but they're not only focused on the money. They're also focused on being good human beings and being involved in their communities and
mm-hmm.
helping out where they can. And so I love working with them. And I
Wow.
think it is going to be amazing to watch these students come into power positions in our country over time.
That's nice to hear because I know like when it's come to the student life, I mean, in USA, I think there's a huge problem of student debts. I've heard it and uh,
Yes.
yeah, there's a huge problem and like in Sri Lanka, we really like don't have it in that student debt
Mm.
because like it's kind of like a free education, but we do have our own set of problems for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Y-
That's the thing.
Yeah. You know, so my loans got forgiven after 10 years of working at the university
Wow,
through the public service
that's
loan
really
forgiveness
nice, isn't
program.
it? Yeah.
Yes, but at the time that I got approved, 99% of people were being rejected. I was one of the lucky ones who got through on the first try.
Wow.
With my husband's loans, we were
Mm-hmm,
looking at different plans because he still has
mm-hmm,
some from when he went back to
mm-hmm,
school.
mm-hmm,
And we wanted to make sure that we have his loans paid off before our children start college.
Wow. Yes.
Because we didn't want to have to worry about helping our children at the same time we were still paying down our own loans.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think
true.
that's a concern for a lot of Americans who are in the middle
Hmm.
class,
Hmm.
who don't tend to qualify for the same levels of forgiveness as people
Hmm.
at other places might.
Hmm.
Um, so it is a challenge. The
Hmm.
Biden administration has put some changes into place that will hopefully make student loans um, maybe less, I don't want to say predatory, but for a lot of
Hmm.
people, they owe now more than they did when they graduated, and they've been paying on time every month. It's just that the interest accrues so quickly. So that's definitely a
Nice.
concern.
Nice. I mean, I like the way that we are, yeah, continuing the conversation. Like we start from the thing and we are like a little bit political now, and like it's really nice. It's really nice. And I want to ask like maybe like last question, like, do you like would you or like maybe like Oklahoma University, like, are you guys open to work with other, for example, like University of California, like can
Mhm.
we like do collaborative projects because we have some students who come from very humble beginnings and come from rural areas that maybe like they don't have electricity, they don't have access to the running water and all those, but they came to the university, now they are learning, and but we don't have that much facilities, but they like to learn. So do
Mhm.
you think that we can do something collaborative, maybe online, maybe webinar, your students can share ideas with our students and our students can say hello to yours, and like do you think that can be done or like in the future or something?
I think that would be a really great opportunity for students to have the option to do. We don't
Mhm,
have PhDs at our university, so we don't have a lot of
mhm,
research students.
mhm,
Most of our
mhm,
students are
mhm.
uh, bachelor's students, so
Yeah.
undergraduates, and then we have some
Mhm,
master's students.
mhm,
And I think we just got approved for one PhD, or it might
mhm,
be an ed. I can't remember. Anyway, um,
mhm,
so I think that's one of those things where if there were places
mhm,
to put it into classrooms for
mhm,
classroom assignments for sharing ideas, I think that would
mhm.
be a really cool thing for a
Yeah.
cultural exchange.
Yeah, because I have some like because I teach undergrad students.
Mhm.
So like I think it will be great because it will be such an eye opener like for you, for
Yeah,
your students, and for because like this is kind of like a two birds like coming together to learn
yeah,
about AI and DPTs and all those things, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
I
will
think
be
that
great.
would be really interesting. I'm trying to think
Yeah,
about how that would work. So you've got my
yeah,
wheels spinning as I'm trying to think
yeah.
about
We'll do
projects
it.
to make that work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. You set up the time and like we'll do it like no issue at all. We'll do it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. I think time is up. I don't want to take your like valuable time, Laura, and I'm really, really grateful that you like even like gave the thumbs up for my podcast and like you were willing to come here. And I always
This has been great.
yes, and to be honest with you, I always read about your posts and like I try to because even I don't have any idea about these things. Like I do have something, but I want to learn just like you. So I think we are in
Mhm.
the same boat. So at the end, like, do you have anything to say to my viewers and about the AI or like maybe like small message to the world?
Sure. Um, I think AI is here. We have to figure out how to use it. And for those of us who are in education, if we take the lead on this, then we could make it what we want it to be. We could make it something really good. And I think that's one of the places where, if people take the time to invest in making their classes strong, making their assignments strong, then we have the opportunity to make some real difference in education. And I'm really
Right.
excited to have had the opportunity to talk with you today.
Nice, thank you. Like it's really an honor. So this is Professor Laura from Oklahoma University, and I'm Prabodha Dewanarayana, which is lecturer, University of California. And thank you guys for tuning in, watching our podcast, and thank you, Laura. See you soon, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much.